Hi everyone, and welcome to our short video entitled Encouraging Dispositions to Learning. Dispositions to learning are characteristics that allow individuals to become lifelong learners. They're also sometimes called habits of the mind. When we talk about encouraging dispositions to learning, what we want to do is encourage children to be inquisitive, to be creative in their thinking, and also flexible in their thinking. We're going to talk about each one of these in turn. We also want to encourage children to be critical thinkers. We want them to be purposeful and reflective of their learning and to become positive social learners. So let's take a look at these one by one and see what type of things we, as parents, can do to encourage these very important dispositions to learning. Inquisitiveness. Children are naturally inquisitive, and for anyone out there who's a parent of a preschool or kindergarten age child knows that children ask a million questions a day. And although sometimes that can get a bit frustrating, it's also a really important thing to encourage. The environment is very, very important for supporting children's inquisitiveness. Not only the physical environment, but also the emotional environment. Children need to feel safe in order to ask questions and discover answers. Allow the children to find out the answers. Vygotsky would say, definitely scaffold their learning, give them hints and help, but don't swoop in too quickly with all the answers. That process of finding the answer is probably even more important than the answer itself. Encourage questions and model inquisitiveness yourself. So Bandura would say, remember, the children learn what they see. And if they see you being curious about the world, they're going to also adopt that inquisitiveness. When we talk about supporting children's creativity, we're not only speaking about art or music or dance, things that we normally think of as creative. We're also talking about creative thinking. So again, allowing children to express themselves and take risks. If you remember what Erickson says about this stage, he talks about preschoolers and kindergarten age children taking initiative. And anytime you take initiative, you're taking a risk. Do provide lots of open-ended materials and experiences, and encourage your child to use materials in different ways. Again, remember that creativity occurs in many areas, not just art. What we're really talking about here is creative thinking. In order to be able to think creatively, we must also have some flexibility in our thinking. We can't really adopt new ideas or create new scenarios if we're too rigid or closed-minded in our thinking. So again, we go back to that environment that's safe and accepting. And flexibility yourself. So model flexibility by being willing to adapt to different situations. To say, wow, I know we've always done it this way, but I wonder if there's a different way we can do this. We're out of sugar and we really want to make muffins. Is there something else we could use to sweeten it a little bit? And the child might say, maybe we could use honey, or maybe we could use applesauce. And say, you know what? Let's give that a try. Of course you have routines and rules, but make them somewhat flexible. So you may have a pretty strict rule about bedtime, but maybe that particular evening, a very favorite adult person comes over, and you say to your child, you know what, usually bedtime's at 8 o'clock. But since Aunt Mary's here, why don't we just stay up for a little bit longer so you can have a nice visit? Encourage that flexibility. Along with flexibility, critical thinking is so important for lifelong learning. So talk about what's happening with the children. Provide lots of rich and varied materials and experience that require some problem solving. So for example, you might decide rather than have every color of paint available, maybe you decide, I think we're just going to put out the 3 primary colors. And then when your child says, I want to make an orange pumpkin, rather than just dashing to the cupboard and getting orange paint, you might say, okay, we have a problem because we don't have any orange paint. What do you think we could do to solve our problem? These are the colors of paint we have. And the child might say, maybe I'll paint my pumpkin blue instead. Say, well, that's one way of solving the problem. Or, is there another way that we could make orange paint? Really have the child think about what they can do to solve the problem. And model critical thinking yourself. Think, this is what happened today. I'm wondering if I could have handled it a different way. I think it worked really well this way, this way, this way, but I wasn't happy with this. And your child will start thinking that way as well. This next disposition to learning almost seems like we're contradicting ourselves. We talked about being flexible, but we also talked and creative. And now I want to talk about being purposeful and reflective, as well as being able to think by the seat of your pants and go with the flow. Another important way of learning is to really plan ahead and think about what you want to do and reflect on it afterwards. And this doesn't come that easily. I think we really have to be purposeful ourselves in this. So you might want to work with your child to plan their day. You might say, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do today, or here are the things we need to do today. How should we do this? There's a philosophy of childcare called high scope, and they do what they call a plan, do, review every day. So they plan what they're going to do, then the kids do it, and then they come back together and talk about how the day went. And so you might want to incorporate your own plan, do, review. Provide materials for your child to sketch or make blueprints of a project. Help them say, okay, if we want to, they say, it's just snowed, we want to make a snowman. You might say, cool, what are all the things you need for your snowman or your snow woman or your snow person? And let's get all the things together first. Ask open-ended questions after and even during experience to encourage reflection, and model purposefulness and reflection yourselves. Learning doesn't happen, life doesn't happen all by yourself. We as humans are social learners and we need to work together. So for your child to become a successful lifelong learner, to do well in school, to do well after school, they need to become social learners. So they need opportunities to play with their peers, to develop problem-solving skills and conflict resolution skills. One thing you can do is develop experiences where children work together towards a common goal. So if your child has some friends over, working on something that everyone has to contribute in order for the project to be successful is a wonderful way of encouraging social learning. Playing cooperative rather than competitive games, and providing experiences that develop pro-social skills. If you remember, pro-social skills are those skills that benefit other people without a huge or very obvious benefit to the person who's doing it. So one thing that you might do is encourage your children and family to take part in a food drive or collect mittens and coats for children who may not have such things. There's lots and lots of wonderful ways that you can encourage pro-social skills. And it sounds crazy, but one way to come up with lots of ideas is to Google. Okay, Google, activities that promote pro-social skills in children, and you will be amazed at the cool things that come up. Reading books where children work for the greater good is a lovely thing. There's lots and lots of great books out there. And modeling positive social interactions yourself. Again, embrace your inner Bandura and don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. We've just explored a few ideas for encouraging these dispositions to learning. After you close down this presentation, you'll find a button on our page that leads to a YouTube video that is just a beautiful, it's about a 20-minute video that really expands on this idea of dispositions to learning. So if you want just a little bit more information, click on that button. Thanks everyone, it's been a pleasure. Also, don't forget that there's some resources on our page for you to check out and a spot for you to ask some questions and get some answers. Talk to you soon.